All right, welcome back to CINDERS Fundamental Strength Training for Mental Health program, the Foundation. And we're going over the 6 core compound movement patterns. And in this video, we're going to go over the vertical press, which for me is basically just straight up and down pressing. And the reason for that is when you start to introduce angle, you bring your chest into the picture. Nothing wrong with that. I just usually consider that a horizontal press. An exception to that might be like a really high incline. I might still consider that a vertical press. But generally, I'm thinking about exclusively training the shoulders directly overhead when I'm thinking about this particular pattern. And so for that, there's actually, there's tons of variations we can do with this, but it's generally, again, straight overhead. We got barbells and dumbbells, and then a couple different variations. And so at the very base level, we have the dumbbell shoulder press. And so we're here, we're coming down here, and we're pressing up like this. Trying to keep our core straight. We don't want to be leaning back a whole bunch. That usually means we're trying to engage our chest because our chest is strong. We want to stay upright and use our shoulders to do this pressing. So this is the standard dumbbell shoulder press. When you come in front like this is now the Arnold press. And so for this one, you're twisting on your way up. This one's giving you a little bit of a deeper stretch here. Then here, you can see my elbows sinking lower. And then since it's in front of me, generally this is going to favor a little bit more front delt. But you can also kind of swing it out like that to hit more side, whatever. Different variations there. But that's our dumbbell press. We can do those seated or standing. And we can do them supported or unsupported. So seated, you could have the backrest up, so you're able to drive against that backrest, which is great. And it's a great way to build strength. You can do that as well with the barbell, seated barbell with your back. There's machines set up like this, or at least just setups, I suppose. For this, it's not exactly a machine, it's free weights, but to support your spine, I think it's important to do it unsupported. I think it's good for your core to understand how to press without that brace. But there's uses for both, right? If we want really focusing on shoulders, really want to isolate the shoulders, then there's a place for that. And if we want to be kind of more holistic movement, there's a place for that as well. So that is our dumbbell movement. One other thing I wanted to share that's actually a really great core variation is the Z press, which is where you're going to sit on the floor. I'll kind of do it right here. You can sit on the floor, using my feet out just a little bit, and then we're going to do the shoulder press from here. And this really forces your posture to stay really rock solid. That's a great one that I like to introduce pretty frequently for myself. The next option we've got is the barbell shoulder press. This one has a little bit more nuance to it. So I'll explain the nuances a bit here as well. So generally speaking, I'd normally have this racked up a little bit higher, but this is light enough for demonstration purposes to be here. You can play around with what you prefer in terms of where your hands are placed. I typically like to be about where my arm is straight up and down, stacked. I find that I'm the strongest there. The closer in they are, the more it's going to hit your front delt, and the wider, the more it's going to hit your side delts. Regardless, I usually just like to find the strongest position, give or take, in this particular lift. And you'll notice if I push straight up, I've got a chin there. So you kind of do this little movement, and you do got to duck back just a little bit. You don't want to, again, curve back too much. You want to just duck back, kind of counterbalance yourself, but you kind of just pop your head out of the way and push it through. You push it back through the window. So right now the bar is directly over my head. It's not sketchy, actually. If you feel it coming down, you just get out of the way. But anyway, we come back down. We're here. So it's kind of in and out of this little window, so I'm not hitting my chin. That's the barbell press. And then there's the push press. This is another like more athletic movement. You would want to do a little bit lighter weight for this while you're figuring it out. Then ultimately you can do it really heavy. But you can give it a little bit of gas. It's a really athletic, explosive movement. Another great variation and super fun once you get the hang of it. And that's the overhead press. ultimately we're hitting shoulders. And this complements really nicely with our horizontal, with our all of our pull patterns, but particularly those horizontal ones. Getting our shoulder in a good position to being able to press with good posture. So anyway, vertical press. It's kind of just a fundamental part of being a human being, pushing stuff over your head, lifting things up onto a shelf and things like that. And so it's really functional and builds a lot of muscle because we're using our shoulder joint and our elbow joint to produce a lot of force.